I want you to take a second and really think about how far Marvel comics have fallen. And if you really think about it, here's the really funny story. Okay? Think about how popular the movie franchises were. The MCU, the popularity, the money, the box office take that a lot of these movies made, particularly Endgame. From what I understand, that is the highest grossing film of all time. I believe even with inflation, I could be wrong with that, but either way, it's way, way up there. And the comics, they don't sell at all. No one cares. They had the biggest platform they'll ever have, and I think that those days are numbered. I really don't think the future of the MCU is very bright, considering a lot of the stuff that we've heard about what's coming to the MCU. I don't think I think that the days of the MCU reigning supreme are over. In fact, I'll go as far to say I think the days of the comic book movie are almost over. I think they're going to switch over to anime adaptions and video game adaptions. I could be wrong, but we'll see. We'll see. So I really wonder what's going to happen to the dwindling popularity of mainstream comics. I certainly don't think they're all bad. There's a few books and titles that are still pretty good, but for the most part, they're on a downward spiral, and I don't know if they can ever come back. Look at how far they've fallen. Look at this. Iron Man, Tony Stark has his privilege checked by a Marvel Netflix hero. This is really, really cringy. So just to give you a little bit of a recap here, a little bit of a history to what's going on with Iron Man. Iron Man is on several reboots because they always reboot comics, but recently Dan Slott's run came to an end. I've talked about Dan Slott. I don't want to get too much into it, but his run is over, and they've rebooted the book. This is supposed to be a back to basics for the character. He's going to go back to his roots, and it's going to be a whole new run, and it's going to be great. And within the second issue of this new run, we already have the hero being told that he's a white male with lots of privilege. Okay? Nobody's looking for an Iron Man comic for a lecture and a finger-wagging session. Okay? You know what I want when I read an Iron Man comic? I want cool fights and him taking down like maybe some crazy terrorist or something. Now, that would be really getting the book back to its roots. But that's not what we're getting here. So what happens is he ends up fighting Arcade for some reason. I don't know. I'm not going to read the book series. I just want to go over what this book is doing and giving you a really good highlight to how terrible Marvel Comics are still to this day. Okay, so he gets in a boxing ring with Arcade, or not, Arcade puts him in a boxing ring with the Absorbing Man for some reason, and then he ends up getting put in the hospital, and he meets up with Hellcat, Patsy Walker, and they go on a mission together to go take down Cardiac and rescue hostages. Now, this ends up hurting Iron Man for some reason, and he is sitting there talking to Hellcat, and this is what happens. I'll read you the panel. Hey, I've devoted my entire life to helping people. I'm Iron Man. You mean you've given yourself more power than you already had? You enjoy more legal leeway than most people on Earth, and you answer to absolutely no one? Well, when you put it like that, it sounds like you're just another white guy with a god complex. She checks his privilege. Now, what's funny is like this whole thing is like Tony has done a lot for people, if you think about it. Devoted his money to helping out humanity with what he does as the Iron Man. Does he have a little bit of an ego? Sure. But I think telling him that he's just a white privileged man is probably the wrong way to go about it. He's sitting in the hospital bed all beat up, okay, because he's uninsurable, basically, is what he's saying. So he has to pay for all of this care out of pocket. And this turns into a big societal lecture and a lecture on his privilege. It's really unnecessary. And the biggest takeaway that I want to put on, or the biggest thing that I want to say about this, is that this isn't what comics should be. You know what comics should be? They should be fun. You know what this should be? It should be fun. It shouldn't be a platform for far left politics. That's not what it should be. But even after years and years they're still doing this shit. And what I find even funnier about this is they're still doing this during the year of the coof. Now, what's going on right now with Disney? Disney, okay, I call it's a D-Day for Disney. I believe it's December 10th. On December 10th, Disney is going to do a lot of cutting. Like they have a big report for their stockholders and stuff coming, and they're really going to break down a lot of stuff that's going on right now. And they've already foreshadowed that they're going to do a lot of the cutting that AT&T has done. Now, I can only imagine how badly Marvel Comics is losing money. And at some point, I think the eye of Sauron or the eye of the mouse or whatever is going to turn on Marvel Comics. And they are going to gut the hell out of them. Okay? You can say what you want about DC Comics, but they're at least trying to do some things that make sense. I think the YA novels they're doing make sense, despite the fact that I don't think a lot of them are going to sell very well. They actually just released a bunch of books that went over like some different YA novels, and some of them actually look good for kids. But Marvel's not doing it. I don't know who they're selling this shit for. Maybe just to pass around to their buddies in Portland. That's about it. Because obviously, none of this shit is translating to sales, and they don't stop. And a lot of the reasons they do that because they've never been held accountable, and they've never had to turn a profit. But with as bad as Disney is bleeding, I think those days are numbered. Okay? Disney, or Warner Brothers is doing some things differently, bringing in Hollywood animators and script writers to write their comics now, which is going to put a lot of comic book pros out on the street. They're trying something different. They're just replacing people in the industry. And I think Marvel is going to follow the same as DC Comics has. So it's going to be really interesting to watch. But I think the days of superheroes telling you to check your privilege might be coming to an end at Marvel. It's not going to completely go away, but it might tone down. Because at DC Comics, it hasn't completely gone away either. But it does seem like it's toned down just a little. Marvel's been running at full steam, full power with their privilege check and shit. So we'll see what happens. But I cannot wait for that Disney report to come out. I think over the next month, you're going to start to see them talking about cuts. And in December, I think that knife's going to drop on them. So we'll see what happens. It's going to be interesting to watch. And I will, of course, keep you updated. But Tony Stark checking his privilege thanks to a Marvel Netflix hero. Did she ever even become Hellcat? She was in the Jessica Jones show, right? Wasn't she in that show? Did she ever even become Hellcat? Anyway, that's it. Let me know what you guys think about all this. I'd like to hear your thoughts. Also, if you would, please share the video, throw a like up, make sure you still subscribe. Subscribe if you're new, hit that notification bell, and I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace. Also, if you want to help support the channel, check out my Teespring store. There's a link in the description. You can find some merchandise in there that you might want to check out.